Good evening and welcome to another episode of the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. We got Danielle from Copa Tejas here with us tonight. Unfortunately, that has come to a close for San Antonio FC fans. They're not going to be hoisting it up this season.
Well, it
But
came a close for everybody.
for everyone, but especially San Antonio FC fans.
We were out last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever that was.
But we'll get into that here in a little bit. We wanted to start off with a little recap here from our game of the week that everyone actually here was able to attend. UTSA took on Texas State in their season opener. And as always, here on the roundtable, my mother taught me my manners. So, Danielle, we will start with you. What were your thoughts,
That's not fair.
from the UTSA Texas
Beauty
State
for
game?
beauty, Harry. So I was super excited because I honestly haven't seen any of the women's teams play here in San Antonio. So it was just such a delight to have that high level. I almost feel we went kind of from the WPSL, UPSL, and now with the UTSA soccer, it just took it up a notch. So I really enjoyed playing. Another fellow friend of mine who we've been playing together for a few years, she and I were both very impressed, and we both really enjoyed watching that high level of competition. The girls looked great, the team looked great, and they just need to find the final touch in the last third.
Yeah, definitely. We saw a little bit of struggle there as far as creating attacking chances and stuff like that. Rafa, I was kind of curious just from a coach's perspective. Obviously, final result UTSA unable to get the 3 points, would lose 1-0. Where do you think that UTSA kind of struggled a little bit, Rafa, in building that attack?
I think they just struggled. They just couldn't crack the back four of Texas State. You had Texas State pretty much playing counterattack, kind of parked the bus. They had playing a 4-1-4-1, and they were just kind of picking their spots on. And like I said, Texas State had some good opportunities to score them, about 3 or 4. They just missed wide, so they were just kind of suckering them in and then stealing the ball, get them on the counterattacks. I think what UTSA needed to do, I know they did well touching the ball, but I think they started getting away from that too much with the kickball, not enough, passes to space to create those crosses, and then also we weren't getting enough people pushing up. We had maybe 3 or 4 in the box, and there was no one on the outside, to place one in, and you can tell that it was pretty much like I said, Texas State was parked the bus. UTSA just couldn't crack anything. Any shots they took from outsides were blocked, except for a couple of good shots. One of them they barely missed. I think that had they scored that one, I think they would have changed the momentum of the game and really opened up Texas State. But I think hopefully, like I said, they learned from that game. Coach made some improvements, and so we'll talk about their next game against Grand Canyon, when they played on Sunday.
Absolutely, much different result in that one. I felt like number 14 there for UTSA, Ellis Patterson. I kept thinking that she was going to break one. They kept feeding it to her kind of there in that corner of the field for UTSA. Harry, I know we were talking there after the halftime, and you kind of felt like that might have been part of the issue as well in terms of one-dimensional. What did you think in terms of UTSA's offense in that match versus Texas State?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the offense, but it just seemed like it went down one side of the field, and to me, it got very predictable. You kind of knew what they were going to do. They didn't cross over or try to flip it to the other side. I think they came down with the left-hand side majority of the time on both halves. It was just crazy how it was just they'd go down, and you had a third of the field where there were no players, offensively or defensively. So. But my thoughts on the game, like I said here, it was the first time I've seen UTSA women. It was the first time I've been out to the Park West Athletics Complex. And I have to admit, as far as a facility, I thought it was very good, very good. And like I said here, I'm probably going to be, going out a little bit more out to support, them and other events out there. But for my first college match, I was impressed on the atmosphere. I think you and I both commented that it was a good crowd turnout. Texas State traveled down well. UTSA had their half of the stadium pretty well filled. So I walked away very happy, and I know it wasn't the result that we were hoping for, especially going against Texas State, your closest rival. But I expect to see some growth from the team this year, and hopefully they can get some better results coming up, especially this weekend where they host the UTSA tournament, on Friday and Sunday.
Friday and Sunday. Yeah, and I thought it was a great atmosphere out there for the match. I'm sure you had a lot of people, a lot of alumni in town for the hometown showdown, and I know they were trying to recruit people from that out as well. And it looks like we have Coach Fidler joining us, so we'll get to him here in just a second. But as you mentioned there, Harry, just to kind of recap that upcoming UTSA tournament this weekend over there at the West Athletic Complex, Friday, September 6th at 7:30 p.m. versus Cleveland State, and then Sunday, September 8th at 1:30 p.m. against South Florida. So we'll have a afternoon game there at 1:30 on Sunday. I'm sure that's going to be a hot one, but hopefully the UTSA girls can get a similar result to what they were able to do out there in Phoenix against Grand Canyon. Definitely bouncing back with a 4-0 victory in that one. So quite a statement, quite a turnaround there. And we'll continue to watch them closely and see how the Roadrunners progress. But moving on to the other school that was in the hometown showdown, we've got Coach Chris Fidler joining us from University of Incarnate Word. We'll give him a second here. Coach, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, Coach. Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. Can you guys hear Coach Fidler as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome, Coach. Well, again, thank you for joining us after practice. We know it wasn't ideal, but we appreciate you coming on to talk to us a little bit about the Cardinals soccer program. Tell us a little bit about your guys' first regular season victory there against UMBC, able to get a 2-1 result there on Friday.
Yeah, no, it was a good result for our guys. Obviously, when the WAC rankings came out, everyone's kind of written us off this year in front of like 2,300 fans. So it was kind of a baptism of fire, especially for all our new guys that are coming in. But they dealt with it superbly, and obviously we got the away win and took it on to Liberty on Sunday and got 2 away wins, which sets us nicely up for our next trip to Central Arkansas on Saturday.
Absolutely. Coach Chris Fidler joining us from University of Incarnate Word. I was able to watch the match there versus Liberty, and I know Rafa and I were both in attendance there for the preseason game. And you talked about the defense kind of being that main area of improvement. I feel like we saw why you expect so much out of that back line from watching them in that match against Liberty. Tell us a little bit about that unit, and kind of just what your expectations are of them for this squad.
Yeah, well, obviously after the Trinity game, as a coaching staff, we sat down and we chewed over it, and we kind of tweaked the system going into this road trip. So I'm actually glad that we kind of got a maul in against Trinity, because it set us up and it allowed us to tweak a few things. And looking back now, I think if we'd have set up the same way we did against Trinity, we'd have struggled this weekend. But as a defensive unit, they were superb this weekend. They put their bodies on the line every 50-50, every 60-40 against them. They were winning it. Even my goalkeeper, Carlos Mercado, made some fantastic saves to keep us in the game on Sunday as well. So, out of that back four, we've just added one new guy to it. We've got Mateo coming back from a season-ending injury last year. So each game that goes by and every training session, they're gelling as a unit. And we've got guys chomping on the bit on the sidelines, waiting for their chance as well. So I think as we progress throughout non-conference, we can solidify it even more before we hit in the conference games.
Absolutely, Coach. And before we get too far ahead into the conference games and everything, I was just a little bit curious. Like you said, Carlos Mercado had a great day, but the team came out and just looked great in the second half against Liberty. Was there something that you said to him at halftime, or was there an adjustment that you made in that match in particular that you felt like was a difference maker there in the second half for you guys?
Yeah, well, I thought the first half was probably one of the most boring games of soccer I've ever seen. But it's a Sunday game. Both teams had traveled on the Friday. We'd had a 5-hour car journey on the Saturday. Those games, I kind of gave them a bit of a rollicking at halftime. Not because they weren't playing well. It was more about a gut check. It was who wanted that second half more. I told them at halftime that this game will finish 1-0. And it's about who wanted it more. And they came out all fired up, and it was a much better performance. But obviously, with the conference we're in and the travel that we have to do, it replicates what we have to do in conference. And those Sunday games on the road, that will be the difference. Winning those games, whether we make the postseason or not. So I think the fact that they proved themselves, the guys proved to themselves that they can do it, will set us up nicely as well.
Absolutely, Coach. And in that match, it even came down to the last minute there. Carlos able to make that save there and tip it over the net at the very end to hang on to the 3 points. As you mentioned, you guys have a really tough schedule even still ahead of you with 4 out of the next 5 being on the road, other than the match that you have against Our Lady of the Lake here in San Antonio. I know Rafa was kind of curious, what expectations do you kind of set for the boys when you have a schedule that's just so travel heavy early on in the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's difficult. We want to go into every game and try and win, but we have to be realistic. We have to rest guys and rotate guys, which is what we tried to do on Sunday. And we'll do that with the Our Lady of the Lake and give some of the fringe guys that haven't played much the chance to impress. But, look, we started off fantastic with 2-0, but that weekend's not going to define how successful of the season we are. So, I think with the one game next week and then the one game the following week, our intention is, can we be 4-0? That's the challenge I've set the guys. So if we can do that going into the Tools from Grand Canyon trips, anything's possible, but it's about the guys believing in themselves and how much they want it and how successful they want to be.
Yeah, and I know Rafa was a little curious about, you mentioned Tulsa and Oral Roberts, in that trip. Is that kind of a test? Not that you want to look too far ahead, but something that you guys have kind of circled there on the calendar?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the last road trip before conference starts, so we have to be smart as coaches and realize, if someone's going to pick up a yellow card and miss that, the first conference game, we'll have to take them out the firing line. But obviously it's a big game for Miguel Velasquez, who transferred in from Tulsa, going back to his old school. So I know we'll get him fired up for that one as well. But it's kind of fine-tuning the system, the way we want to play before we go away at Grand Canyon, which, their crowd is going to be even more fantastic. There'll be 5,000-6,000 people there, which will be a great atmosphere for our guys to open conference with.
Well, I know we're looking forward to it, Coach. And Harry, Rafa, Danielle, did you guys have any questions for Coach Fidler before we let him wrap up his evening and get home?
Not for me. I just wanted to wish him luck, and hopefully I'll be able to get out to to Gale and Tom Benz Stadium to catch a match. I think the next home game is on September 12th, which is a Thursday at 7 p.m. Going on there. So, which I think is against Our Lady of the Lake, Our Lady of the Lake University is who they'll be playing that night. So I'll be looking forward, hopefully, to attending that match coming up on the 12th.
Rafa, any final questions or anything like that for Coach Fidler?
I tell Coach this. I'm very impressed with Carlos on the goalkeeping. Even watching him at the Trinity game, just his leadership. He's a go-getter. A lot of those saves he's made. I think he's going to make a big difference in winning a lot of those close games.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's, he got thrown in the deep end last year as a freshman, played a lot of minutes, and he's developed that. He had some good experiences training with some pro teams throughout the summer. He's learning every day and he's getting better and he's taking on that leadership role and he's commanding his area now. So, we're ecstatic with him. He's got a big future in the game ahead of him as well.
Well, Coach, thank you again for joining us. Best of luck against Central Arkansas this upcoming weekend, and we look forward to seeing you against Our Lady of the Lake and when you guys finally come back home from Tulsa.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your guys' support, and it'll be nice to see you guys at home next week.
Absolutely. Coach Fidler joining us from University of Incarnate Word. Again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys.
All right, good night, Coach. So that was Coach Fidler joining us from University of Incarnate Word. Definitely one of those guys that we're going to have back on this show on a regular basis, at least in my opinion.
I remembered my question that I didn't write it down. So I was scrambling, but I was going to ask him about McCarthy on how well he's adjusting from playing to actually coaching, but I missed that.
We dropped the SAFC ball here on the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. Just goes to show you we're about more than just San Antonio FC. So next time, Harry, next time. But
disappointing.
Moving right along in the show, we have another special guest, obviously, here with us. Danielle, you were one of the two people who kind of spearheaded the Copa Tejas campaign this year. I'm a little interested in just kind of hearing what that experience was like for you and how you guys had kind of come up with the idea to kind of spearhead this. I don't know how many people were aware of who it was that was behind it.
So it's gone by so quickly in the blink of an eye. I can't even believe that we've already crowned a winner and handed out a trophy. But the origins were Steve Arders had kind of reached out to me because a couple of us, once El Paso came on and Austin came on, well, we had 4 teams and, we're all familiar with the Cascadia Cup and derbies and all that good stuff in soccer. And so it was like, well, this was kind of the obvious next step. And so Steve reached out to me and he said, can you look up some names? And I got on Google. So the origin of Copa Tejas, we had a number of names that we were going through, but obviously anything with Lone Star, the Lone Star Cup or the Lone Star Trophy, that had a ton of affiliations with the Lone Star soccer clubs, the youth programs, some other things. So that was kind of out almost immediately. Yeah. I'm going to complain. Maybe I should rebrand to have or something. But so then anytime I put in something with trophy, I got a lot of hunting. So we just want to be very careful with that branding and you didn't want people looking at the hashtag, getting a bunch of like hunting pictures, and that's never good. So we kind of started looking at Copa Tejas, and there wasn't anything where the hashtag was taken, the Facebook and Twitter. So that was important to us that we were going to be able to kind of corner the market with that name. And then I got on Twitter, secured the Facebook, the Twitter handle, the website. We created a website, www.copatejas.com. So you can kind of see a little bit more, some of the stories, some of the things people have mentioned about us, pictures and stuff like that. But just social media has been wonderful because you can reach out to all of these other supporters groups super quickly, super easily. They were all responsive. Everyone was on board. It took us a little while to connect with some of the folks in Austin and get the right people. But with the Queso Bowl, Everly's Army has kind of come back into action. But El Paso and Eighth Notch and the Stampede and RGV, from day one, they were on board. And the one thing I want to emphasize too is this is truly a supporters group. So it's not just me making decisions or Steve or any of the clubs. Everything goes back to all the supporters groups before we make decisions. And so we want to make sure that all the clubs are involved through their supporters groups. And that was obvious because we handed off the trophy to the Everly's Army at the trophy ceremony. And then they in turn handed it off to the team because that's what it should be about. It should be about that relationship between the supporters, the fans who help, keep the team alive and going. in the team who's there for the fans. So that's a little bit of our origin story, so to speak. Maybe we'll get some celebrities and have a bunch of series on it, but it's just been so fast, and it was so welcomed on social media and through so many people that I just couldn't believe how quickly it blew up. We were kind of like, whatever happens. But it was awesome this year.
Yeah, well, awesome for obviously the Austin Bold FC supporters. That is pretty cool, though. Like, I'm not going to lie, I did not realize the way that you guys did the trophy presentation was that y'all presented it to the supporters and then they presented it to the team. So that is pretty cool. What was the biggest obstacle? I'm just kind of curious. Like, what was the one thing that just kind of had you scratching your head and saying, what the hell did I get myself into? Like, why are we doing this?
So some of the challenges this summer, Steve and I were both, and it was little things. It was like Steve and I were both out of town, or one of us was gone, and then the other had to kind of stay on top of the social media. And I think there was one week where it was like 3 Copa Tejas games, and I'm like, we're trying to keep up with social media, but when I was at the World Cup in France, I'm sorry, that was the only thing I cared about. Copa Tejas is dear to my heart, but spotty internet, and that was just a challenge in terms of just logistics, but we really balanced out very well. I think the one thing that I would say that we were both like praying the game was determined this Saturday is logistics. We were like, who's driving to El Paso with the trophy? We were getting ready to kind of like flip a coin for that, but that's probably the biggest challenge. But I'm telling you, things were so well received. The supporters groups talked to their front offices. They were on board. We had the news media. There was ESPN 760, El Paso radio, and TV were supporting it. People in Austin were retweeting it. So, I mean, this past weekend I had the sideline reporter for ESPN retweeting about at Copa Tejas. And so just the fact that she had heard about us was just so cool. And so being on the USL show in Austin, whenever we went there, they're like, yeah, come on down at halftime. Let's get you on air. Let's talk about the trophy at both halftime and the end of the game. So really we've been received very, very well everywhere we've went, and everyone's been so receptive of everything.
Well, that's awesome. We look forward to that rivalry growing, with the addition of Austin if they stay, and El Paso. Hopefully this doesn't go anywhere for a long time. Where do you see I'm just curious with, you got to see all the different supporter groups and all the different rivalries. How do you see those rivalries kind of lining up moving forward?
So the cool thing was, once Copa Tejas started, now everyone had a reason to watch the other games, because now it's like, well, I need to watch SAFC versus Austin, even though I'm in El Paso, to see who wins, because that's important to me. And so it just makes games have meaning. And we were talking about, watch party, and those are the great opportunities, because it's a long season, April to October. And while we want to go to every watch party, that's a lot. But if we can create something where supporters can come together for a handful of away games for those teams, it's awesome. And that's the big thing that we heard. But I'm super excited. We have a lot of cool ideas for next season. But ultimately what I want to see is, I want to see the Copa Tejas matches, which is only really 3 home games for each team, be kind of those keystone matches where, you can't get hyped up for every game because there's so many. But if we can go all out with the supporters groups where they're all coming together and we're having huge tailgates, and maybe kind of theming the tailgates, and there's tifos for this, and it's kind of like the special edition games. I think that will help grow the supporters. It'll help grow the fan base. It just will help grow the game and soccer in Texas in general. But I'm super excited the direction it's going. I'm like, I just need some sleep because we were in Austin Sunday night. So we have plans to debrief with all the teams, see what they want. I have my wish list, and if it was up to me, we'd have like marching bands and tons of mascots. Also Copa Tejas matches, but and I go to the supporters groups, they may overvote me on that.
We'll start with step 1, don't schedule the matches on a Wednesday night. How about that?
That's my advice there is.
Right. Well, and now that kind of people know and everyone knows, oh, it's a real thing with a real trophy, I think the teams may try to be a little more sensitive to those things or aware. Although a traveling team may be like, hey, a Wednesday night game is great for us, smaller fan base and SAFC. Harry, what's up?
Because both of our matches against El Paso were Wednesdays. And I, just like you, I communicate with Eighth Notch quite a bit. I think that was the biggest miss. And to be fair, it's not just ours. The Four Corners, with, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and which one am I missing? Colorado, have the same issues with the Wednesday matches. So if USL is going to promote them, like they have, which is outstanding, and get behind it, they've got to work with the clubs and and I know, some are in a baseball stadium, El Paso, get out of a baseball stadium. But to me, that's the big thing is they got to stop on the Wednesdays, because I think it would be awesome. RGV, the Stampede came up for the last one, and it sucked walking out, and, they happened to park right next to me. But so that was a little bitter pill. But no, to me, that's how you build this rivalries. That's how you build this cup to be one of the best in not only USL, but possibly, North American soccer here, where if you start to develop that history, if you can get some longevity with the cups and the teams and the matches on the pitch, but they can't be on Wednesdays. And, I could see if, Friday night, if you have issues, but these should be prime Saturday Saturday times, because it's 3 matches. And we've had matches with RGV on Wednesdays, I think once or twice. I don't think Austin's is the only one that I could see being on a Wednesday, and that's only because it's 90 miles up. But I think, just like with the Omaha, it affected people going up there, just having to deal with the Austin traffic. But you can't have San Antonio and El Paso on Wednesdays, in my opinion. That's unexcusable by the league, in my opinion.
So USL Championship, because you're listening tonight, get on it. I need you to adjust the schedule for next year.
Yes.
But even coupling that with the idea of, you have in the EPL, they have the Derby week, and then MLS has rivalry week. That might be something that they want to consider. So Hotline USL right here, I said it first. Having that rivalry week where you've already got the Four Corners, you've got us. There's something going on with the Treasure Chest in Florida. You've got why
all
not?
The Midwest teams.
They got stuff going on too. It's probably the Wheat Bowl or something. I don't know. I'm sorry for my friends. I love the Midwest.
No, you don't.
But I'd love to see that. Talk about the direction that the USL is going. Have that rivalry week. But the one thing that we have to talk about, and I'm going to bring it up, and I think we all may you want to choke me through this, but can we just talk about how SAFC was almost there? Like they could have won it had they beat RGV, and a couple other scenarios happened, but had they beat RGV up 2-0, a man advantage, and then we all know what happened. So
I'm kind of glad that we even got to the point though where we were competing for it, when we were in the lead, because there for the first 3 games it was like, oh shit, this isn't going to be pretty. Let's not talk about the Copa Tejas, and then finally we were able to win a couple there. But no, again, I know that was probably a lot of work and stuff like that for you guys. So excited to see where that goes and everything, and all the work that you guys put in for that.
Hopefully to San Antonio. We want it in San Antonio. It was such an awesome moment for the fans and the city. It needs to be in San Antonio next year. That's taking off my Copa hat and putting my SAFC.
One thing that I want to congratulate you guys on is there's a picture. I know you guys put it out there. I know Lincoln Rose put a picture out, but where at least one members of the supporters groups with their scarves were all at a location. And of course, you and Steve were there to ugly up the picture. But no, that was the cool thing that I really enjoyed it from this past week, where you had all 4 of the supporters groups that were there. I don't know if they were there when the trophy was presented, but there are pictures of all 4 together. And I think that's the key thing for this, since it is supporter driven, to have, at least from the leadership of the supporters groups, and I'm assuming most people there were in their leadership of the group, to all come together at least once or twice a year to kind of have that. And, it would be very interesting to see the feedback session that you're going to have just from the different views of the groups. And I know New Mexico wants to get in, but unfortunately they're not cool enough.
Unless you make the Wild Wild West Cup and include Arizona.
Throw Phoenix in the mix.
Yep.
That might not be good right now, right?
I was about to say, do we ever want to win this thing, Rafa?
Yeah, the Wild Wild West Cup for next year.
They may never lose again.
Not that we need to give any more kudos.
Speaking of Phoenix, I just want to point out that everyone who has these unbelievable records in USL, they don't win back.
Yeah.
So congrats on your regular season supporter shield, but they're not going to be able to bring it all the way. They peaked too soon.
Let's hope they peaked like a week too soon, as that's San Antonio FC's opponent. Harry, I guess we'll start with you on this one, since you made the bold prediction last week.
Well, I said I was thinking about making the bold prediction. I didn't expect Coach Powell to... Well, I guess that's my fault. He did Coach Powell. How do you sit, in my opinion, the hottest player in the league? Mm-hmm. And I know Asante from Phoenix is right up there, not taken away from him, but to me, Pirano, had Player of the Week 2 out of 3 weeks, and he's not there. And to me, when he wasn't there, how he's not there? It's very easy when you look at. Was it the attack? Where is it? The crosses. So when Pirano's there, we don't cross as much. This match, we had 15 crosses. Our accuracy was 13.3%. That's the problem when Pirano's not there. You'd lose that middle, and it just, they didn't get off the bus. Coach Powell, I think he's still in Seattle, because we're 5-1. How many subs did he make? Does anybody know?
I didn't see any.
He made 1. He substituted Gomez for Frank Lopez. That's it. What was he doing? He didn't make any changes. It's just, I don't even want to talk about the game. It was, you can't. It was a crap game, and how can you go from destroying New Mexico to getting destroyed by Tacoma? It's.
Especially being the last place team too.
Well, and I think a lot of it comes to just that back line. We've talked about it all season as far as their marking ability or inability to mark. And it's like, when a team starts creating chances like what Tacoma was able to do, they result in goals. When we're able to just not let a team have any chances like New Mexico, it seems like that's the only way that we can prevent them from scoring, is just not to have any attempts. But I don't understand why Pirano was on the bench. I mean, I do get rest. I do understand that it was Tacoma. It was the bottom of the table, and hopefully you thought your guys might be able to show up a little bit better than what they did. But, I mean, you got to have somebody outside of Pirano that can create some kind of attack, because like you mentioned, Harry, crossing has not worked for San Antonio FC very well all year long. I mean, this is nothing new.
Just, if it was rest, why didn't he come in at half? Because let's be honest, even if you have a full team against Phoenix, the odds are you're not walking away with 3 points. It's just, as much of a homer as I am, and I think San Antonio has the talent and capability to beat them, the odds are you're not walking away with 3 points at Phoenix. Against Tacoma, you needed those 3 points. It's, it's not like you're first or second. You're mid-table. You're now out of the playoff race right now if the season ended right now. How do you not? And he's 19, 20, right? So if he's got an injury, put him on the injury list, and that way, you don't have people questioning, hey, why isn't Pirano there? Number two, where is the depth on this team? If Pirano is going to make that big a difference, if you don't have the confidence in your bench to come in and make changes, because at half, we were only down 2-0. So there was an opportunity to come in. If you get a goal, we saw with what happened with RGV. 2-0 is not an impossible thing to overcome. It's just they didn't show up, and I would say other words, but I don't think that's fair to the team, because I think the team tried. I just don't think the staff put them in the right position, and that's all I'll say on that.
Well, and kind of just to the point about the depth, with injuries and everything else, it's been a roller coaster of a season kind of in that regard. We talked about depth being a problem for San Antonio FC, and then them kind of addressing that with the Lopez signing and everything else. And it's like now, with Gallegos being back in school and not able to travel probably on a Friday, and,
losing
some
Bryant.
of these younger players, losing Bryant, and then Jameson getting injured, it's like, all of a sudden, all this depth that we had, I just don't know what subs you really, Powell, even could have made to have been effective.
Where's Rafa? Bring Rafa in.
Yeah.
They sent a picture of him today when they put him out. He's on the practice field. He's on contract. I know he's unofficially coaching the Athenians, but where is he? I find it unexcusable for San Antonio FC to only carry six players. What the hell? We're not Tulsa, and this is no disrespect to Tulsa. We're Colorado Springs. We're not a low-budget team. We can carry a full team away. We've done it every year. And I understand before during the summer you were carrying an academy kid, which I have no problem on, because most likely they're not coming in. But you got to get out of here if you're only going to bring in one sub. Mm-hmm. You got Phoenix coming in. Put in some of the bench players. Get them some minutes. Let some of the starters rest. If you're down
3-1, 4-1.
And I understand 20 minutes is not a lot of game time, but it's 20 minutes of wear and tear. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's game. And I put this out there. It's games like this one. It's games like Tulsa. It's game like Colorado Springs that's going to cost Coach Powell his job.
RGV.
When he plays against quality teams, they play well. But when they play teams against, that are lower in the level, that are lower in the standings, because they're not lower in level, lower in the standings, they do not perform well. And I know our buddy Todd, really hammered the coaching aspect of it, because you look at the quality, they're inconsistent, and that goes back to coaching.
I don't think you're going to get too much argument from anybody on this show in that regard, but very well said there, Harry. Very well said. So
here's another interesting thing. If Gallegos is leaving, and also with Ethan leaving, why aren't we on the waiver wire and signing players? I'm looking at I'm on the Instagram page for the USO fan. I see all these other teams stockpiling players, for that final push to get into the playoffs or to build depth just in case they have injuries. Why are we not doing that? We have one big signing. Okay, that's going to be the one that we're going to get us into the playoffs. Well, we need more than that. Mm-hmm. We're missing a veteran defender, because our three defenders just not experienced. They have some good days and got some bad days. But we still need some veteran leadership on the back three. Why don't we sign somebody? Go get somebody off a loan from an MLS team that's out of pretty much out of the playoffs. We can get another midfielder. If you're not, like I said, where's Rafa? If you're not going to use him, then release him. That way we can get someone else in to get on the spot or not. I think this game would have been perfect for him to play. Mm-hmm. If Rana was not going to play, put him in. I bet you his leadership, he would have helped that team out. Maybe would have come out with 1 point at least, not with getting blown out 5-1.
And plus, it wasn't hot. It's Seattle. It's just like I said,
it's and then this goes not only the coaching but also the general manager. What are you going to do to get us prepared to go into that, to make a deep run, and try to get into the playoffs, but also get into it, because we're going to need more than what we have now to beat Phoenix if we see them in the playoffs. or we should play Fresno, because what we have right now is not enough. Frank is not enough to carry this team. We need a couple other guys that are going to make a difference.
So you mentioned, why don't we go out and pick up defenders, quality defenders? My question is, why did we let quality defenders go? Cyprian Hedrick is doing phenomenal. He has been like team of the week. He's got great leadership. He's great with the fans. Everyone loves him. How about Darnell King? He is tearing it up where he's at now. We had quality players that we let go, and there's your defense. And anytime you bring in new players and a new team, we know they have to get used to the system. It helps when you have a couple key players who are already familiar with the system. But going back to the crosses, it should be the same system. It shouldn't matter. This is the game plan. This is how we play. We play better on the ground. We're not just going to be like a bunch of high schoolers and kick it into the box and cross our fingers that someone's there. But every time they do that, it's like, did you even pick up your head and notice an easy way off to the top of the penalty area? Because actually high schoolers are smart and they're picking up their head and they're making those good decisions. So
that formation they're playing, the 3-4-3, I've played it as a club coach. And in 15 games, I scored 75 goals. It's a run. It's basically kind of like your spread option offense for football. It's a run and gun, go straight out attack. We're not seeing that. You should be averaging 4 to 5 goals a game with that formation. Now, the problem is the back three don't know how to defend if they're playing man or they're playing zone defense. If they're playing zone defense, they're not doing a very good job on that. And I think that's what they need to fix. You're right. Letting King go and Cyprian, if we had those players now, we probably would be a lot higher than we are today.
Well, and I'll also point out in that when you only have 3 defenders, those midfielders have to get back and defend. Mm-hmm. You can't just go on offense and that's where we're going to stay. You have to get back because you're the first line of defense. You have to slow down that attacker because otherwise it's going to end up looking like Tacoma, like, just railroad my defense because
on quick breaks.
They're outnumbered. So of course they're going to get scored on when it's, a 4-on-3 or a 4-on-2. But yeah, those outside midfielders have to get back. And there are just times where they don't, or they're too tired, or, hey, I made this run up. But that's where I like Pirano because he is hustling end line to end line all 90 minutes. Even when we're up 5-1 against New Mexico, he was up, he was back. Anything in the area he was getting, and we just we need a team of Piranos, or we need people who have that heart like he does.
Yeah, we talked about him backtracking all the way back on one that he lost, and he's just that type of player where if he gives up the ball, he's going to go win it back, and you just don't see that too much right now, it seems like, for San Antonio FC. But they've got a pretty important matchup, as you guys have said, against Phoenix coming up. Historically, Harry, as you mentioned last week, San Antonio's kind of fared pretty well against them for whatever reason, be it matchup or whatever.
4 wins, 2 ties, 2 losses. So
what do you expect? Let's go ahead and we'll put a bow on this one, buddy, and let us all just kind of move on from this. But what do you expect? What are your final thoughts kind of for this matchup against Phoenix?
So it's going to go 2 ways. We're going to either get the shit blown out of San Antonio. It's going to be 5-6-1, Phoenix. Or San Antonio is going to show up and it's going to be like a 4-3 match. The bad news is it seems, it's one of those bad news, good news types thing. Jason Johnson's going to be back for Phoenix, which he was the gentleman that scored the first goal for San Antonio FC. So, he's always a special place in my heart. But then he destroyed that on opening night by getting the late winner. He had a knee injury. He's been out, but guess what game he's coming back for? It's San Antonio. So yay. It's not dollar beer night, so that's a huge positive. Sam, thank you. For not scheduling it on a Friday night, dollar beer night. It just depends on if they get off the frickin' bus. because this team has the talent to do it. I think you can win a 4-3 shootouts. Phoenix can give up some goals, but the problem is you have to score first. If you can get on them early, that's the difference. If Phoenix scores first, it'll just
start the real road
early. And the other interesting, to me, the matchup I'm looking forward to seeing is Pirano versus Asante. I think those are probably two of the top small guys, midfielders that to me control the team. And I know it's crazy to think, but I think Pirano is the spark plug of this engine that how he goes is how San Antonio goes. I know we all point to Frank, but I think the key is actually Pirano, and as we talked about last week on how much he's improved. Phoenix is the same way with Asante. Now they got a little bit more weapons around them, with speeds of Fleming and John and stuff like that. So it's not going to be easy. I'm still 50-50 if I want to pull the trigger on doing the hot challenge again.
How bad did it burn last time? I guess is.
Oh, I didn't. It didn't. Wasn't a big. It's not doing. It's just doing. It's. The problem is, why am I going to go in with no chance? Mm-hmm. And if we would have, we should have been the 5-1, destroying Tacoma. It would have been a done deal, but I don't know if Pirano's hurt, and that's what I fear is if he's hurt, and they don't want to disclose that, and if he's going to set another match, which I don't think he can. But to me, until you can figure out, hey, is Pirano in or out? How can you make that? Because if he's not playing,
it's a huge difference.
I don't give San Antonio a chance. Mm-mm. Do you?
I agree with you there. I mean, I'm with you 100%. I do like the chances of maybe a 3-3 draw, or like you say, a 4-3, just kind of slugger fest between these two teams. Matt's gonna have to come out big. I mean, and I hate to put it on him because in certain situations, I know, there's nothing he can really do. But I feel like this is just going to be one of those games where it's going to come down to a couple of key plays. I think that matchup that you mentioned with Asante and Pirano, if Pirano's healthy, should be a very interesting one. I wonder if Asante can dive the way he does with Pirano marking him, or does that look a little bit more silly because Pirano's like 5'7"?
No, he dove again this week. He got a foul. And he's just, I respect him and his ability, but his diving, and I've talked with a few Phoenix fans, it's kind of like Escalante when he was with RGV. You just hated the guy for it, but when he was on our team, it's hey, it's not so bad.
Give him a minute, he'll be up.
It's real this time.
What about you, Danielle? Any key matchups, or what are you looking forward to the most out of this game?
I think it's going to be like a 2-2. I think it's going to be a draw. I think it'll be a great game. I'm looking forward to San Antonio playing it on the ground, moving the ball well. And some of the shots they're taking are unreal. Just those outside the penalty area. So it'll be really good. I'm just looking forward to good soccer. I just like it when we play good soccer, not ugly soccer. Not when we put a highlight reel up and it's like, did San Antonio even touch the ball in any of these highlights? So just good soccer where we can all as fans hold our head high. And I think you guys are all right. We step up for big matches like Phoenix, and we go in and we play them hard. But I will say I was really disappointed because had we won the RGV game, we would have gone from like 11th or 12th place to 6th. That's how close the standings are. So, I hope the guys are looking at that going, hey, one win, we're in playoff position. So that's where I'm at.
It's funny you mentioned the possession and the highlights, and I know we talked about it pre-show. Looking at the highlights, you wouldn't think that San Antonio held possession against Tacoma for 59% of the game, because on all the highlights, there was nothing about San Antonio holding the ball.
Well, we thought New Mexico was going to be that statement game and that we all wanted and everything, but apparently now Phoenix is going to be the restatement game that they'll make. So, Rafa, what about you, man? Any final thoughts for the show?
I'm not as far as confidence in this game. I just don't. Unless he makes changes, because I remember the first game. Now, the first game we played with a flat back 4 defense. I don't think it's be wise to play a 3-man defense with Phoenix, especially all the firepower they have. I think what we kind of maybe need to do, take a page out of little Mourinho and park the bus a bit. And then if Toronto is back, and use him on counterattacks. I think maybe that might be the best tactic for this game is kind of parking the bus, let them wear themselves out, and then kind of pick your spots, with Frank and Pirano and Barnby and Gomez. I think they have enough to do the counterattacks. I think maybe playing a 4-4-2, something like that, or like I said, a 4-5-1. Maybe that just a clawback space. Maybe we'll have a chance. But if we play with a 3-back, especially with this Phoenix team, it could be a shootout, but we're going to be in the losing end of the shootout. So a good feeling. Like I said, I don't think we're going to win, but I don't know. There's just something that, against big teams, we have that Jekyll and Hyde, persona.
Got to be embarrassed after their performance.
Yeah. I think maybe hopefully that was a good check for them to say, you know what, we all won.
And I know this – and I know we've kind of discussed this, previously early in the year, and we know they're not going to make any changes. But I think Coach Powell is coaching for his job with the remainder of the games here. There's, in my opinion, there's no way he keeps his job if they do not make the playoffs on there. And if you look at the schedule for San Antonio FC, I think it's 8 games left. 3 of them are at home, 5 are on the road. Mm-hmm. And the ones at home, what are Oklahoma City, Fresno, and Colorado. So 2 of those 3 are not easy, we'll say. Oklahoma City's always gives us, hell, we've never beat them here in Toyota Field. Mm-hmm. We beat them in Oklahoma. We've never beat them here, I don't believe. And then, Fresno's second in the league right now, or in the West, I guess, not league, in the West. So, it's San Antonio's dug themselves a hole, and like I said here, it's you drop this game against Phoenix, you're putting a lot of pressure like they did last year at the end of the year, and we know what happened. They didn't, they went on their little trip away, and guess what? You get Oklahoma City on the way back, then they go to LA, and where dreams go to die, Tulsa. So, you figure they've got 5 matches, and what day is today? The third, so 20 days, 20 or 25 days. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches to finish out the month here. So we will know very quickly how well this team does. I think we'll find out by the end of September if we're still in this or not.
Well, we'll have another good matchup on Saturday, September 7th at 9:30 p.m. Going to be another late one playing out in Phoenix. But as always, we appreciate you guys watching and listening to the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. What's life without goals? We out.